And the first thing I want to talk about, it's kind of what we talked about last week on the show. I thought we would start this week with it. It seems like an easy topic because we were talking about the Peacock deal for WWE kind of coming to a close, and it was announced, even though at the last NXT event when they were advertising Stand and Deliver, the Peacock logo came up at the end, that it will not be on Peacock. That it'll be where Brandon was talking about the AAA events. It's going to be on YouTube, which is weird because it's in reverse. It's going to be on Netflix. It's Netflix to the world, YouTube to the United States.
And it's free, by the way. YouTube free. So you can watch it. You don't have to pay for anything on YouTube is what my understanding is of it.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean it's YouTube. I mean you're
well, I mean you
familiar
can
with
also
YouTube.
I mean there's like isn't there like YouTube plans where like you could get exclusive stuff? Like YouTube TV kind of stuff.
I think what you're talking, yeah, like YouTube Premium and things like that. Yeah, but I mean I think I don't think there's any YouTube Premium I think the exclusive content might be like someone's channel they might put videos out early or something. Those are for like super fans of like those streamers and things like that.
Yeah.
But YouTube in general, where AAA is and where AAA was this past week, is free. And I guess my question is, maybe Brandon, you might know this more than me. I watch YouTube a lot. I luckily, have a VPN. So I watch it. Every site I use I think through a VPN, and YouTube exclusively. Not exclusively. I mean, and I don't know what it's like to have commercials on YouTube. I do know what it's like to have commercials, but I don't know what it's like in the sense of if I don't want to watch commercials, I know how to not have commercials. But my question is when you watch it on YouTube,
Yeah.
if you don't have the VPN going on, obviously you have the initial 30 seconds of commercials before the video starts.
Yes.
But during the video, I noticed, and during videos I've ever watched where there's commercials, they just kind of interject every so often. But if this is a live event, are like YouTube ads going to just interject throughout, or
No, they typically do not. They typically do not. At least for me, they haven't. Where I mean, if you get on some funky feeds, but like when it's like WWE, AAA, like if it's like a more like a legit, obviously it's a legit like
live
broadcast,
event, yeah.
things like that. No, because they have it specifically set up for intervals of like, all right, match A, commercials, match B, set or whatever. Like they do it just like a Raw, SmackDown, any of the PLEs. So it's a standard format. But if you are watching it like say like the next day, I believe, at least for me, I've been able to kind of like it'll like pop up with the ad, but then you can skip it.
Yeah,
so,
after like 30 seconds or 15 seconds.
Yeah, like there's a way to do it that way. But like no, if it's a live broadcast, at least from what my experience is, maybe someone else's experience is differently, but from my experience, it's standard. Like it's almost like you're watching it on TV, so to speak. So regardless if you're using a VPN for like you had mentioned, and you're watching it on Netflix or you're watching it on YouTube.
Well, I got a VPN for YouTube as well, so I can watch commercial free YouTube as well. So
I see. I haven't done that part, so that's
yes.
Well,
I had to use the VPN this past week to watch all the World Baseball Classic going on because the login that I use to watch on traditional channels that are in North America, the Foxes of the world, I didn't have them at my disposal really quickly. I didn't want to bother people to get them, so I watched the World Baseball Classic via Netflix in Japan. And let's just say if you don't know about baseball, that is not the best way to go because you're not going to understand anything they're saying, and you're not going to understand anything that's written on the screens. Even names, like the names that come up, they were all translated into Japanese. So you had to just know, what you're already watching. They had the numbers and the flags, so you can go along. But yeah, when like somebody's up to bat, their name and their stats are all in Japanese.
Well,
so
I'll even go a step further because I now we'll go down this rabbit hole. We'll have a conversation for another time. But what I have done in the past is if I don't want to listen to like the television broadcast or like the streaming broadcast, like you can listen to the World Baseball Classic on like ESPN radio and things like that. So you could have technically had it on your screen and then had the audio version on your radio or your receiver. Just a thought.
I've saw, kind of in that same vein, Citi Field in New York City announced this year that they're going to have an app on your phone that you're going to be able to listen to the broadcast of the baseball game while you're there, but they're going to have it special that there's going to be no delay. So you can obviously always listen, always watch, but they're going to have it special for in the stadium. So there is no delay. So it will be per
When
pitch
does
by
that
pitch.
start? Does that start this year?
This starts this season.
How
I think
cool
it's
is
special.
that, by the way? I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. We'll talk about that another time. But that I would love to see that in every baseball park. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. But, NXT, they're off of Peacock now. So what we've got left is what I believe, as of right now, Saturday night's main event. And they have announced that there is another one coming in May 23rd. There is another Saturday night's main event. It's going to be from Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is probably, of the Saturday night's main event since the return, probably the smallest market.
Let's jump in on that real quick. With the Saturday night's main event, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want there's a point I want to make on that. So as far as I've heard and read and people in the know, that know the contracts and what they've been reporting is pretty much Saturday night's main event is totally separate from NXT. So they'll be on Peacock until I don't know what the end date is on that part of it is. But yes, NXT is no longer part of the Peacock family, but Saturday night's main event, at least currently, is the standalone product for WWE on Peacock.
And I kind of wonder a little bit if that deal was essentially standalone because it wasn't ever meant to be on Peacock. It was meant to be on NBC. So I wonder if that deal was made with NBC separate to air Saturday's main event on NBC so many times a year. And then now obviously it just migrated over to Peacock because NBC, it's their product, so they can put it on wherever they want. If they don't want it on NBC anymore, they can move it over to Peacock if they'd like. Yeah. So I wonder if that's why the deal was separate, because it was never really a deal with Peacock. It was never like the PLEs or the library. It was its own, like, we want to air this live show on this channel so many times a year. And that's probably why the deal's separate versus like the Raws and SmackDowns and pay-per-view library, essentially the WWE network when it migrated over to Peacock for a while. I will say too, YouTube right now is essentially the modern day WWE network. They got WWE Vault stuff uploading all the time. They got some more stuff that WWE Network didn't even have, I think, before, like old Coliseum home videos. They're uploading again. If you can watch them commercial free, even better. If you want to pay for YouTube Premium to watch commercial free, do it. If you want to get around it while you still can, do that as well. But the WWE Network still seems to be now on YouTube. But kind of staying with the television thing for a minute here as we talk about WWE and TV, I want to talk about this one. We didn't talk about this when it came out a few weeks ago. But Wrestlemania, the first hour of night 1 and night 2 are going to be live on ESPN. Night 1 is ESPN 2, and night 1 is ESPN. Makes me kind of believe maybe that Wrestlemania was pushed up an hour to maybe accommodate that hour for those networks, because they're saying like, hey, we got nothing going on that hour. If you want to move it to 6, we can give you 6 to 7. We can't give you 7 to 8. Maybe that. But what do you make of the 1 hour tease of the event live on paper, not on paper, but on ESPN proper, essentially for the first time ever? Wrestlemania will be on regular television live, at least in portion.
I mean, for in the short term, I think you're trying to draw up more business for the ESPN Unlimited plan, where you're like, hey, if you want to catch the second hour, you just got to download and subscribe to our Unlimited ESPN Unlimited, and you can catch the rest of the show. But on the long term side of it, we've kind of talked about it before, whether it was on the podcast or not on the pod. But I feel like down the line, I believe that WWE, you're going to see a WrestleMania or at least one of the big four on ESPN, like the network. So if people still have like the cable box or even like the ESPN app, just in general. They could click on ESPN Network, and it's not like you have to pay extra for it. Mm-hmm. It's just part of your ESPN plan, and that's where you see the big four pay-per-views. I think that's where we're going, and I think this is a teaser to get people to buy the Unlimited for now. But I also think it's ESPN getting data to see how many people actually watch it for that hour to see, hey, maybe this is something we should invest in down the line, because ESPN is the worldwide leader in sports for a reason. They want it all, and I think they're gonna put their line in the water with this, see where it goes, and then if it falls flat and they don't get great numbers for that hour, then it'll stay the way it is on the Unlimited and all that stuff. But don't be surprised if they put up good numbers and WWE does well. don't be surprised it goes to ESPN or ESPN2 in the future.
I understand like the business, what you explained it kind of perfectly. The business of it, of like the idea of only playing a certain port of it. Obviously, they want people to buy this ESPN Unlimited, right? My hope was when this ESPN deal came around that some of them would be on ESPN in general, like WrestleMania. I think that's obviously a deserving event. And you really can't make an argument with me to say that ESPN2 couldn't play WrestleMania, let's say night one in its entirety, because I mean, let's be real. At the time of year that it's on, especially on a Saturday, I mean, well, they don't even have Sunday Night Baseball anymore, so even Sunday nights, right? At the time that it's on, I don't know offhand, but I can just venture to say that on April 18th, ESPN is probably not playing any sporting event that is bigger than WrestleMania. I mean, I know WrestleMania is not as big as a lot of other ones, but it's not going up against, the Super Bowl, the Final Four, the World Series. It's not, going up against any of that. ESPN2 a lot of times doesn't even play that. It's the secondary ESPN. So I do think, they could have put it on for full if they wanted to. It's not that they couldn't. It's that they are just trying to create that tease. I do, I guess. One, I guess I struggle a little bit with the fact that night one's on ESPN2 and two is on ESPN1. So like it's different networks, kind of throwing it around a little bit. And
I know why they're doing that. I know exactly why they're doing it. They're doing night two because they expect night two to be the better show than night one. That's why they're putting it on one versus, the OG ESPN versus two. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't be surprised. That's their thinking. They're going to see how night one goes on the deuce, as I like.
Well, they're only playing an hour of night. I guess here's my thing. Maybe what if they do night one in full on ESPN2? The whole thing is essentially a commercial for night two, and then night two is completely on ESPN, or not ESPN, the channel, but the unlimited package. You got to pay for it.
They don't want to show
supposed to be a teaser, right?
They are teasing, but they don't want to show all the cards. They want to be like they want you to. It's like
they want to tease two things instead of tease one thing to get to the next. They want to tease a little of this and a little of that.
Yes, it's like they want to give you just a little taste of it and be like, does that taste good? By ESPN Unlimited, you get the rest.
I guess, and I always kind of wondered this a little bit. Back in the day, Sunday Night Heat, was a great example, and it wasn't the pay-per-view itself, but it was the quintessential build-up, the teaser. I still watch old Sunday Night Heats, and it's, to be honest with you, this is no lie at all. I don't, obviously we watch and we have access to everything that's wrestling. Like pay-per-view in theory doesn't really exist anymore. Even if you don't watch, I mean, back in the day you had to watch it on pay-per-view. If you don't watch it on pay-per-view, before you saw live footage of the event was probably a little ways down the road. I mean, you'd be lucky if Raw played 2 seconds of a match. Most of the time they'd play like a still photo. But now WWE, even though they're charging $30 a month for this ESPN Unlimited, they're still not shy of posting like a full match 5 minutes after it happened. I mean, the Instagram accounts and the Twitter accounts and stuff post things that, like, even if you didn't watch it on pay-per-view, you can still watch tons of clips. Like, I mean, essentially like full matches. Like, not even the next day. They'll be like, here's the last 5 minutes of the Elimination Chamber on Twitter, free of charge, or on YouTube or anything like that. I mean, they play like...
Here's something else I was just thinking about, because I am a subscriber to ESPN and like the unlimited plan. Like I have all that stuff. What you could do is they could essentially make it almost like ESPN Plus. You know what I mean? Like it could be part of the ESPN Plus plan, because like, watching a lot of like Syracuse sports here, here locally, a lot of those games, like you have to like, you just type it in or it pops up on like the home screen. And then you click on it and it gives you like an option. Usually it's ESPN Plus or like ACC Network. So you could do stuff like that. So even just to add to what I was saying earlier, ESPN Plus would be another way to get it out there as well. And to that teaser point, I think they really want to do it for data. I think it's more data than anything else, because they're like, okay, we'll show you for an hour. They're going to get the numbers and then we'll see where it goes.
I'm still like under the, to kind of put a bow on this, I'm still under the firm belief that the wrestling fans are wrestling fans and non-wrestling fans are non-wrestling fans. Back in the day, like I said, I would watch Sunday Night Heat as a hardcore wrestling fan and not buy the pay-per-view because it costs physical money and I'm 13 years old and that's just the end of the day. You know what I mean? I can't do it. But I feel like especially when it comes to like most adults specifically. I mean, maybe, like I said, maybe you might get some of those kids that are telling their parents they need to buy it. Maybe that's the audience they might get at.
I think that's what
Because
they're pushing for.
yeah, I mean, I've traveled around and I can tell you, like I said, you're either watching it or you're not watching it. I've never been watching a Monday Night Raw at a TV, at like a restaurant or a bar or anything like that that's played it. And they, as soon as it shut off because they switched channels, people were screaming, "I want to see how that finished." You know what I mean? I need, they were just like, "Oh, who cares?" Or, I've never taken anybody to a Monday Night Raw and then all of a sudden they were like a hardcore fan the next day, or watch Monday Night Raw and they're a hardcore fan the next day. I think when you're older, you like what you like. So it is data. Who's going to watch it? But I don't know how many people are going to take that first hour and
think of it
subscribe
this way.
over.
Like little Johnny, for example, he heard it from his friend in school. Like, hey, I heard, like, I want to see this like wrestling thing. And then like they do the hour teaser, and he's like, oh, the kid gets hooked. He's like, oh, this is kind of cool. Dad, can you get your credit card out? I want to watch it on. I want to watch the Wrestling Unlimited. I wouldn't be surprised something like that happens, honestly. I mean, word of mouth was a big thing when I was a kid too.
I wonder too, like how the like pay-per-view is going to be structured, like in that sense, like because we'll talk about it in a minute.
The first hour is a hard out.
You think so? Because I mean, with AEW, obviously, we've seen this. We'll talk about how they've now done it more than a few times. The 0 hour bleeds into the pay-per-view. It's kind of getting a little redundant for them. They have like a match going on while they have the fireworks going off.
AEW they're not structured like WWE. Like WWE sticks to a plan.
But do you think that's a good idea though, to have like a mid-match and then say, if you want to watch the conclusion, you got to turn over?
Not necessarily. Maybe what they could do is in that first hour, depending on which night they decide to do it, put a title change in there. Put a title change in where like the last footage you see is, I don't know, like Liv Morgan holding up the championship belt or something. Like, oh, hey, do you want to see more great content like this? Go to ESPN Unlimited.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some people though, like I said, the audience is mostly kids. I think it's mostly kids trying to get people to spend, because adults are either going to watch it or they're not going to watch it.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you on that part.
Yeah, they're going to watch it or they're not going to watch it. They might watch it for free, but then when it's over, they'll say, all right, move on. Like anything else. It's, I will say though, I don't think you'll be able to. Maybe again, it's just me because I was a kid then, and maybe kids are just like this nowadays. So I guess it's the same. I don't know what I'm talking about. But watching Sunday Night Heat, and that wasn't even the pay-per-view. That was just the pre-show. But just like the way that they would show you the set, the way that they would hype it up, the way that they would be essentially at the pay-per-view and show the fans filing in, really building up the hype that it's starting soon. But just being there live, I think that's all like a big thing. It was, and pay-per-view obviously was way different than it is now, because again, it's a hard cutoff. When you're either watching it or you're not watching it. You're not following along in your phone. There's no way to follow. You can maybe go online, and after the matches are over, somebody types on some crudely drawn website, the results of what happened, but you're not seeing it, hearing it. Nowadays, like I said, when CM Punk wins or loses the championship after the main event of WrestleMania, whether you bought it or you didn't, you can find it on YouTube. You can find it on your phone, not just the match, but I'm saying like the post show, the post press conferences, those are all free on YouTube and on the internet and stuff like that. So like, and during those, they show highlights and clips from the matches seconds after they happened.
People want to see it live though.
Yeah, no, I understand people want to see it live, but it's just the idea of like the exclusivity of it. Like when you're watching a pay-per-view nowadays, it doesn't feel. When I was a kid, I'll say this till the day I die, the feeling of watching a pay-per-view on television surpassed the feeling it does today for me to attend a pay-per-view. If you say, what are you more excited for? 13-year-old Jared going to his friend's house to watch WrestleMania, or me physically going to WrestleMania? Maybe I'm a little bit spoiled because I've been to a lot of them, but back then it was just so exclusive. And obviously I didn't have the option to go, which would have just blown my mind to do that. But like watching it on television was just exciting enough, because I knew, like I said, it was so exclusive that you were either watching it or you weren't. And if you weren't, you couldn't watch these matches until they came out on VHS like 6 months later.
That brings up so many great memories for me too, because it's like back in the day, like I didn't watch all of them, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like the big pay-per-views like WrestleMania, which is obviously coming up, my uncle has this huge house with a big TV, and I remember remember those big TVs that like weighed probably a ton. Like
Yeah.
he had like one of those big screens,
Big
and the
projection
living room
screen
was so
TVs. Yeah.
big. Everybody puts in a little bit of money to pay for the event, and then also we get pizza and wings and all the other stuff. We did it every year until we didn't because it was easy to get on like network and things like that. Like it was a fun time.
And you got there early because you didn't want to because you're paying money. So it's literally like you're at the arena paying attention that way. Like you're not missing a thing.
No.
You're only going to the bathroom during the quick segments. You're running back to the TV because like it's so, like I said, it's got that exclusive element that when it's over, it's over.
I
miss
you know what
I mean? There's no post show. That credit comes up and you're like, that's it, man. Until next time, it's all done. You know what I mean? Get off the ride. It's over. I do miss that. I do miss when, staying on this topic a little bit, WWE announced a partnership with this front office sports. I don't exactly know what that's going to mean fully, but starting at WrestleMania, they're going to be creating more behind the scenes content with this front office sports. I don't necessarily know what that means because, I mean, what do you mean behind the scenes? Aren't they already doing that? Very much so. I mean, obviously, WWE Unreal is doing that, but I still feel like they do pre-show interviews. They do post-show interviews. You know what I mean? They talk to the people backstage. I don't feel like at WrestleMania there's some sort of exclusive access to pre-shows, like 2.5 hours long. They follow CM Punk from his hotel all the way to the locker room and talk to him 6 times between there. So I don't know what this front office sports, I guess we have to wait, but apparently this is a big partnership. They're going to create more content. Yes. I personally think we have enough content. I've thought that for quite a while.
We always
and I'll say
so long, I feel like.
Yes. I think we have more than enough content. And I'll even say that, to AEW's point, content, we have enough content. And I know this past week, speaking of television, the one bastion of pay-per-view that still exists is AEW. And they really feel like they have to give their fans more than enough for the price of pay-per-view. 4 hours and 26 minutes, I think or 32 minutes was the pay-per-view length. The main event, 46 minutes and 20 seconds between Hangman Adam Page and MJF, which is only the 7th longest match in AEW history. So it's not the longest by any stretch.
Challenge for the championship, by the way, Hangman.
And now he has lost and can no longer challenge for the championship, which I believe is just for the time being him taking some time off from AEW television. But I guess here's the thing, we talk about it, and AEW, their pay-per-view model. You don't feel like that they need to be 4 hours and 20 minutes long for you to get your $50 worth? I mean,
give me 3. Give me 3 hours. I'm good.
Yeah, I still don't understand the overexposure that is AEW.
I think people get exhausted after like 3 hours. Honestly, like okay, like yeah, we love the show. It's been fun. But once you get to a certain point, especially when it gets to like the wee hours of like the night, like you're like, all right, I think we're good now. Like, thank you, but like, all right, I've had enough.
Yeah, it's weird because like WWE obviously got so much flack for having WrestleMania 35 be the long pay-per-view it was, and AEW spits that out like on a monthly basis, and I guess I just don't really understand. I'm actually, it's fine with AEW being the alternative in that sense of the matches being long. I don't mind the matches being long. It seems like if anybody was to have 5 match cards or 4 match pay-per-view cards, it should be AEW because their matches are going 45 minutes long. So it's weird that, the company that's got
the no time limit match went like 23, so that was like a shorter match.
Yeah, the no time limit match only went 23 minutes. But I guess here's my thing with AEW and when it comes to television and all this is the fact that after an AEW pay-per-view is over, one of the things that we're all looking at is the timing and how long the matches lasted. Not saying that they're not good, but it's just like that shouldn't be something we just think about on a pay-per-view. I know they were joking about it like before Sunday, what was going to be longer, the Oscars or AEW Revolution, and all the wrestling people were like, it's going to be AEW Revolution. And it's not, and it's just because they just try to be longer and longer every single time. And again,
longer does not always mean better.
The 46 minutes for the main event match is great. It just is not great when it is preceded by 11 matches that all went 15, 20, 30 minutes themselves. You know what I mean? There's a reason
When
why back in the day.
you're already 4 hours deep, and then you get a 45-minute match, and it's exhausting.
Yeah, WWE did it perfect, I think, back in the day when they'd have those Iron Man matches. I think Judgment Day 2000, they had one, WrestleMania. And they would be 5 or 6 match cards, but they would understand that that match is going to be 1 hour long. So we're not having 8 matches on this pay-per-view like we typically do. We're not having, 7 matches on this pay-per-view. We're having 5, same with the Royal Rumble. We're having the Royal Rumble. It's 1 hour long, but the rest of the show is going to be condensed in an hour and a half because of this really long match.
What did you
AEW
What did you make of Rousey?
I mean, I guess my question is, what did you make of AEW bringing out Rousey, Edge, and bringing back Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay, like in like back to back to back to back matches, all on the same show?
Yeah, I would have spread that out if it's me.
I would have spread it out
to
off of the show itself too. I mean, what about Dynamite here? Come on.
that's what I mean. Like it's like I get you want to like shock and awe and do all that stuff, but like why do we have to hammer it in one show? Because then you're going to have the fan base expecting it to be the same way for the next pay-per-view and the next show and this and that. You're over you're I feel like you're overdoing it for one show, and it's going to make the other shows look less than.
Yeah, and how many times? I mean, Excalibur had to say it during the pay per view. Up, the lights are off again. Like it didn't at first. It was a big shocker.
Redundant.
Then next, yeah, it was redundant. Like half an hour later, the lights are coming off. Who's
There we
coming
go.
out now?
We got another surprise.
Yeah, it was a little redundant. I would say I would say with Ronda Rousey specifically, a little surprised. With her returning to the wrestling world, she does have like a Netflix MMA style fight coming up. So like a little surprised that she's getting back into the wrestling world right now. I mean, I don't know. I do know, but I don't know at the same time what happened where fans just absolutely loved her and then turned on her and no longer like her. I remember when she came out in 2018 to WWE, she's the hottest thing going. Everyone loved to see her. Now, not so much. I know she's spoken bad about the business and things like that.
That's part of it.
I mean, she's still. I think she's still somewhat of an attraction in the world of wrestling.
Burned a lot of bridges. She's burned a lot of bridges. What the rumor and innuendo is like that match between her and Gina Carano. It was pitched to Dana White, is what's being reported, and Dana said no thanks.
Well, I mean, I guess the difference is obviously Dana White runs the UFC, which is a little more legitimate than some of these exhibition Netflix things that are going on.
I mean, I don't want to say it's all Rousey because I know there's been some issues with Dana and Gina Carano as well. I do that. I want to make sure I added that in because there has been some issues with Gina and Dana in the past. So I don't want to say it's all Rousey, but Rousey hasn't always spoken glowingly of not only MMA, UFC, but also the wrestling business, as you alluded to. So I think she's pissed off a lot of people, honestly, and including the fans.
I think UFC, like I said, is a little more legitimate when it comes to trying to keep people going on their main roster. They're not interested in promoting Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul in an MMA fight. They're not interested in promoting that guy who used to play in the NBA against Jake. They're not interested in those like Netflix specific gimmicks.
Nate Robinson.
Yeah, like they're not interested in that. So Ronda Rousey's not a current MMA fighter. She's been retired for quite a while now. So if she wants to do this, she's allowed to do it. It's a free country. But for her to like be on a UFC show as not somebody who's on the active roster, I can understand why Dana White doesn't want to participate. He participated, I guess, in the gimmick of CM Punk back in the day, and didn't really work out so well. He did participate in the gimmick though, for the most part, on the pre-show, which Ronda Rousey I don't think would be a part of. I guess maybe if it was part of the pre-show, Dana White might do it. But television right now, kind of strange. We got pay-per-view right with AEW running like a million years long events, and we got Saturday Night's Main Event, and it's going to be from Fort Wayne, Indiana, too, which is I guess not just obviously that's still on Peacock. But it's just like a weird location because it's coming off of all these major big destination weekends that Saturday Night's Main Event were. They were in like Washington for John Cena's last match. They were in Salt Lake City where it's a SmackDown and Saturday Night's Main Event. They were in Montreal where it's a SmackDown and a Saturday. So like they're creating these destination events, right? Visit the tourism board's commercial logo is always on all of those. You like events DC, visit Montreal. Like you see those off in the corner at the bottom of the screen. You know what I mean? Because these were like treated like pay-per-views. But Fort Wayne, Indiana, I mean, I wonder if they even had to pay for it because I don't know the money they would have, especially in the TKO days. So I wonder if
And it's not like it's that close to Indy. It's like 2 hours away.
yeah, I've been to Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's a very small city. I'm not even familiar. I do know that their arena there is pretty big. Can fit like 13,000 people. So even though the city itself very, very small, or at least very small looking, population wise, might be bigger than it looks. It's not a thriving metropolis. I'll just say that much. But NXT is officially off of the mainstream services like Peacock and Netflix in the United States when it comes to the PLEs. We'll see how long for Saturday's main event, and how long that event essentially will exist, because once it no longer has a home, just like WCW back in the day, without being on television, it became worthless. That's why it stopped to exist, because it wasn't that WCW necessarily went out of business. It's that TBS and TNT pulled it off the air. And, well, without being on TV, you're essentially worthless.